First of all, thank you for coming today. This was supposed to be a press conference that was held during the storm, and we just couldn't because of the weather. We didn't want people to be in harm's way. Welcome to Burien, number one. Burien is a community that we're growing. We have a lot of different things that are going on in our community that, there are side effects of poverty. But there's one thing that I can tell you, that this is a very loving community, and that's what we've been building for quite a while. But tonight we're here to celebrate the proclamation, right? And it's a proclamation of what we want to get done here in Burien. What is this proclamation? I've heard individuals, and I've read, this doesn't do anything but create more division. I beg to differ with that. I think that when we community come together, and we all live here, this is our town. We want to make sure that we continue to build with our children, so we don't see spray paints on the wall, and that if any children's caught up in some kind of a gang or just things that happen because of the side effects of poverty, that we shore it up, right? At the same time, we're going to create programs to be able to help our young people, and we got to check behavior. When behavior gets to such a way that it harms our community, then we got to take other steps, and that's what we're going to. But I'm going to read the proclamation that we're going to have tonight. And I'm very happy that the council members decided to support this proclamation. And tonight we'll be reading it at the City Council meeting. But the proclamation of the Burien City Council in Washington proclaims Burien as a city that celebrates diversity, inclusion, and denounces hate. Whereas all human beings deserve to live in dignity, free from violence, bigotry, and discrimination. And whereas the city of Burien has committed to eliminating disparities based on race, gender, and sexual orientation, where the city of Burien strives to raise up all voice, achieve equality and social justice, and whereas Burien's diversity is a strength valued and celebrated by both residents, city leaders, and whereas all individuals and groups have the right to be different, to consider themselves as different, and to be regarded as such, and whereas a person of race and ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation may not in any circumstance serve as a pretext for prejudice or justify either in law or in fact any discriminatory practices. And whereas any theory in which involves the claim that a specific racial or ethnical group, gender, or sexual orientation is inherent superior or inferior has no scientific foundation and is contrary to the moral and ethical principles of humanity. And whereas youth who hear positive and supportive messages from their community have better outcomes, such as increased self-confidence, empathy, and connection to others. Whereas racial equity and social justice are good for economic development in Burien and the Puget Sound region. And whereas Burien's diverse community contributes to the city's quality of life and brings the community together more than divides it. And whereas the city supports and encourages ethics, trust-based relationship between diverse community. And whereas the city envisions an inclusive society where all people can thrive and all communities are valued, respected, self-directed, and whereas the city denounces propaganda behavior that promotes bigotry, creates division in Burien. So today, this proclamation, I don't think that it will be said that we're not going to be reading it or passing it. I don't believe any council member disagrees with it. But I do want to talk about some of our community leaders that are here, the regional leaders, and you all are leaders. You're here today because you believe in what we're trying to do today, which is talk about the proclamation. Our country is really divided right now on where we go on policy, but what we should not be divided is that we're all human beings and that we all deserve a place that we can live safely. We're about ready to get into elections, and they were pretty awful, the last election, and I hope that this election we can talk about how we want to help Burien grow, how we're going to include people from diverse backgrounds and religious backgrounds, how are we going to help our small businesses and being able to thrive, how are we going to make sure that our children are staying educated and that they are able to compete in a world economy. And so I really look forward to making sure that we have that dialogue and that it's not a dialogue where we really don't talk about some of the issues that we're confronting. But with that today, we have several leaders, and I'm just very, very happy to have some statistics read by Kendall T. Kasai, sorry, Mr. Kasai, and he's Associate Regional Director of ADL, Pacific Northwest, and he'll be talking about some facts and statistics. It's been said that This is fake news where we've really had individuals in our community hurt by racial disparities and bigotry. So thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is Kendall Kosai, and I am the Associate Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League Pacific Northwest. So for over 100 years, ADL has led efforts to pass local, state, and federal hate crimes laws, educate the youngest about bias and prejudice, and create a culture in which we respect inclusion and our diversity. Of course, it's no secret that we live in a difficult time in our community and across the country. The values which we hold dear are actively being threatened when those who are perceived to be different are targeted and in many cases attacked. The FBI reports that in 2017, hate crimes increased by 17% nationwide. There was a 23% increase in religious-based crimes, a 23% increase in race-based crimes, and a 24% increase in hate crimes targeting the Latino community. In Seattle alone, hate crimes have almost doubled in the past year. And we don't have to look any further than our neighbor Klahani, who were targeted with racist and anti-Semitic graffiti just a few weeks ago. At ADL, we're not only tracking these hate incidents, but also hate groups. It comes as no surprise that hate groups are more emboldened than ever, and they are spreading their propaganda not only in our neighborhoods, but also in our schools and our college campuses. Additionally, ADL's annual audit release last year, we saw a 57% increase in anti-Semitic incidents nationwide over the previous year. Perhaps even more troubling, we saw a 94% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in K through 12 schools. And we must ask ourselves, is this who we are? And we can do better, and we must do better. It's a moral imperative to fight for our values, to speak out and stand up for our friends and neighbors, because an attack on one community is an attack on all communities. And we applaud the mayor for exercising his leadership and platform to speak out and make Burien a place where all are welcome, a community that celebrates diversity, and a community that is truly no place for hate. We encourage our members of the community to report to ADL about incidents of hate or bigotry so that we can accurately track what is going on in our communities and advocate for meaningful change. And of course, finally, we firmly believe that just as hate is learned, it can be unlearned. And we encourage all of our members in the community, including our parents, including our families, including our schools, to work with our youngest, right, and most vulnerable to stamp out the seeds of bigotry and hate before they sow, in order to create a community that's more that values acceptance and inclusion. I want to thank the mayor again for inviting us here today, and I'm happy to answer questions later. Thank you.
You know, persistence. This next speaker that I'm about to introduce, Mohammed Jama, you know, this individual emailed me, texted me, Facebooked me, looked for me, and it says, I want to represent the community as well. My future is I would like to get involved in politics, and what more better than to be here, a resident of Burien and a college student from the Highline College who is going to say a couple of words from the perspective of our young people who really are our future leaders and who are going to make sure that we continue to stay vibrant as a nation. So here, Mohammed Jama.
Thank you, Mayor Matta, for denouncing hate and racism. On behalf of the Somali community and as well as the Muslim community in Burien, we want to condemn the ongoing discrimination and racism that's going on, not only in the state of Washington, but specifically in the city of Burien. This includes handful of threats Muslim women face because of their hijab. As a person of color, as a Somali and as well as a Muslim, the intersectionality in me makes me feel that I'm a victim of hate and racism. As victims of hate and racism, we are generally the same group that our national leader targets and criticizes and verbally attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, hate and racism is a national influence, but we cannot let those influences based on discrimination divide us. Burien is stronger than that. No matter where the influence is coming from, whether it's national or not, we can stick together and stand solid. However, as a community, we will resist the hate and the ongoing discrimination by standing shoulder to shoulder, united for humanity. Unfortunately, Resolution 409 did not pass, but 409 will forever stand solid in our hearts. Resolution 409 was not just a resolution, but it was a greater image that illustrated what Burien truly stands for. Lastly, no matter what happens, despite national influences, despite how 409 did not pass, Burien will always be a loving and welcoming city that celebrates diversity. Thank you.
Our future's bright. So the next speaker that I'm going to introduce is from the Washington State Civil Rights Coalition. And, we go way back, and I want to thank him for, in the struggle of the civil rights movement of the 60s. I mean, this man has been a pillar of our community, has always stood up when he's had to stand up for our community, and that gives me great pleasure to introduce Eddie Rye, Jr.
Thank you, Mayor Matta. My colleague is Hayward Evans, also a member of the Civil Rights Coalition and a co-host on our radio program, Urban Forum Northwest. Every Thursday, Jimmy Matta was on last Thursday. So I also want to say that we live in Martin Luther King Jr. County, and we would encourage all citizens to act in the likeness and the image and practice of philosophy and the teachings of Dr. King, because hatred has no place. It's up to each individual to defy and deny hatred. I have even black friends, every now and then, might try to spring a racial joke. I put them back in their place. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable with kids. Oh, that's just a kid. No, that kid has to be straightened out, because racism is something that is taught. And unfortunately, the person with the largest platform in America is doing the most teaching. And that's the guy that occupies 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, number 45. And it's unfortunate that we have allowed our country to spin out of control and to have that deafening silence from the Republican Party on all the racism that's espoused out of the White House. It's really unfortunate, and I want Hayward Evans to just have it 1 second. Thank you very much.
I'll be very brief. First, anytime I get a microphone, I always say I got to give all the honor and glory to God. Thank you, God, for allowing all these people to be here. To my Muslim brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum. To everybody here, look, we're about inclusion. The Washington State Civil Rights Coalition is made up of over 40 organizations and community leaders of color that work diligently on social justice and equality-based issues. Discrimination, hatred is unacceptable. And on that note, regardless of who you are, sexual preference, race, color, religion, those are all non-issues. We're all together on this one little planet spinning out here in the universe. We need to get our acts together. And number 45, we got to impeach him. Personal opinion.
Thank you very much. I also want to bring up another leader of our community. Our LGBTQ community has suffered for quite a while. And I think what is being said here is that, we all have a responsibility in making sure that, people can live in peace and they don't feel threatened. I mean, why does it matter that someone chooses sexual preference? Why cannot our women make equal pay? These are things that we need to continue to struggle in. We need to continue to fight, and we need to continue to talk about it. But with that, I want to bring up Councilmember Marks to say a couple of words, and then if you can come up, and we'll let you speak. And we'll have Crystal Marks come up as well. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mergitu. I'm a lead organizer for South King County. Mostly I work in Burien. I face this discrimination and racism every day, not only me, the entire community. So what I wanted to say is, if you are facing that kind of hate or racism, please outreach to One America. We are oneamerica.org. We are a Washington state-wide organization, and Burien City welcome anyone, everyone to the city, no matter what your religion or where you come from. And I wanted to pass it to OJ, who is one of our leader.
Hi, thank you very much, Mayor, for inviting us today. I just don't want to say too much. On behalf of the Muslim community, I just want to quote a verse from the Quran. God says, "O mankind, we have created you male and female, and have made you nations and tribes. You may know one another. The noblest of you is the best in conduct. God is all-knowing, all-aware." So, if God tells us that, why should we hate? Hate has no place in America. Hate has no place anywhere on earth. So we need to love one another. I work with One America, and we should come against hate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Crystal Marks on the Burien City Council. I want to talk to you today on behalf of the LGBTQ community, of which I'm a member, and have personally experienced some of the discrimination talked about. But more important, I wanted to start first by acknowledging where this is coming from. This is stemming from a letter that was received by Burien business owners and residents. We shouldn't have to denounce things like sexism, homophobia, racism, and hate in 2019. Some say that doing so is a waste of time or is done for the wrong reasons. Well, I think that the letter was written for the wrong reasons, period. So to denounce it and to stand up against it is exactly the right thing to do, is what we should be doing to set a good example for the children that we have in our lives, the youth in our community, the people that are supposed to be looking up to us, and the tone that we're supposed to set on the council. Ignoring it is a privilege that many don't have, and I personally don't believe in ignoring problems and hoping that they go away. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. That's a quote that I think many of us have heard many times, but this is what that looks like in practice. Our regional leaders, elected leaders, members of the community coming out and speaking up and saying that this is wrong and we're not going to tolerate it, instead of ignoring it like some would ask us to do. When we say that we denounce homophobia, we as members of the LGBTQ community are actually celebrating our right to simply exist. This proclamation is a shout out to our LGBTQ youth, letting you know that you are seen, you are valued, you are needed, and we will protect you. This proclamation is a message to the LGBTQ business owners. Your contributions to the Burien community are valued and you're celebrated. This proclamation is a note of respect for our LGBTQ elders. Thank you for the work that you did to get us here and to get me here in this position as well. Finally, this proclamation is a message to those who support all the communities represented here today. Burien is stronger because of you, and we are strongest when we fight alongside each other. Who this proclamation is not for are for those who continue to tell us to be quiet. This proclamation is not for those who tell us that racism has been solved, that homophobia is not an issue, that bi-erasure is not a thing. This proclamation is not for you. This proclamation is to bring us together, not to continue to divide. Thank you everyone for coming out today, and Mayor Matta has decided that we will open up to ask, or allow you to ask questions, and we will all be here for that. Thank you.
And that's And that's questions from you, the citizens, the community members, your residents. Look, we don't have to agree on everything, but what we do have to agree is that we all live in our community and that we're going to use the ability to give our opinion, our perspectives, and raise our voice, and that we're going to be heard. So I would like to open it up for anybody that has any questions, concerns. Go ahead.
I asked you a question, I think, in private, in email, and I would like to repeat so public can hear that.
Raise your voice a little bit.
Okay, my question is, this proclamation, why not include Islamophobia, which is right now relevant? Yeah. So that's also my question to you before, and now I repeat so everybody can hear your answer to that question.
So this proclamation was put together, and that's why it's important to have a community voice, right? Until you brought that to my attention, it's not something that was in my thought process, right? To me, it's like, what do we have? Hate, we have discrimination, we have LGBT, and so, and then I actually had to go back and make sure, hey, are we leaving a sector of the community out? I do believe that just within the sense of discrimination and hate, it could cover it, but I think more specifically, it may be a conversation we have with the council. But today, this proclamation is ready to be read tonight, and it's been, council members have had a chance to look at it. Tonight, they may add it, they may say, no, we don't want it anymore. So reality is council members are here to set policy, procedures, and how we operate as a city. Yes.
So if the council members don't support that, so what time is the demonstration tomorrow?
And, you know, demonstration is it's free speech. And, you know, look, I'm going to say something here is that there is such thing as hate speech, right? But we can't have it both ways, right? We can't have free speech and hate speech. Now, we can denounce it, right? But at the end of the day, this is the United States of America. This is a place where we have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. And that's what makes America just great, right? That we can all sit in this room and be here and be able to be equal and not be fearful of walking out the door and being murdered by government. That's where my parents came from Guatemala. That's why they fled, right? Chiquita Banana went in there and terrorized families. And I'm very grateful to have been born in this country. It's the land of opportunity. And I don't want to see anybody tearing it down. We got to build our community. Any other questions? Well, having no other questions, if you want to mingle, I'm going to be here for a little while. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you do in our community. Look, we don't have to agree on everything, but at the end of the day, let's unite where we can unite and build our community. We don't have to agree on everything, but there's one thing that I know we're always going to agree on is that we want a place that's safe for our children, that they can express and exercise their perspectives, and that we keep it like this: no violence. No violence. And that's the thing that I think that this proclamation is really putting out there of, you know, we can be different, but at the same time, we want to help build our community. With that, thank you very much for being here today. It warms my heart to see the support that we have in this community. And I want to thank the businesses in Burien, because they're the ones that make this community foodie paradise and just keep it together for all of us. So I encourage you to come and eat. We have foods from all over the world, different spices, and that's how we celebrate our difference and our ethnic backgrounds in this community. Thank you.